Hi, everybody. I'm Lydia. It's nice to meet you. I am here in the marketing department at Flatiron School, and I want to welcome you to our Meet the Mentors series. We're going to be interviewing some really amazing mentors who are often facilitators of our courses here at Flatiron School, and getting to know them and hear their stories. And our first guest today is LaChance. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
Joe is a software engineer. And Joe, can you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on these days?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I'm a software engineer. I'm starting my own company is what I'm currently working on. Previously, I was at a startup for 8 years and then Best Buy corporate before that. So,
Okay, awesome. What made you decide to start your own company?
it's something I've always wanted to do. I wanted to do that in college. And I didn't realize how hard it was going to be in college. And I picked a problem that I think was outside of what I was capable of doing. And it was just really, really difficult. And so I ultimately didn't move forward with that because there was a million other problems. I didn't have enough money, time, you name it. I probably had that problem. So, it's just something I've always wanted to do. And even as a kid, I wanted to go invent stuff. So,
Yeah.
it's just something that I've always been looking towards. And I think even working at a startup, which has been great, just kind of having my own thing is something I've been after. So
with your own company, do you have multiple hats that you wear, or do you have kind of one primary role you get to focus on?
This is a very new company, so I'm doing everything. I'm pretty close to finding a co-founder. I'm looking at accelerators. So it's much different than just a typical software engineering job. And I'm having to learn sales, which is painful, but it's okay. So it's different in the sense I'm probably doing software engineering maybe 50% of the time, and then the other 50% I'm trying to market and talk to people and get things out there. So
yeah. Are you do you want to be doing software engineering full time eventually, or do you like having kind of your hand in different things?
I like touching a lot of different things, but I love software engineering. It's at the end of the day, if I can just turn everything off and just program for a while, there's nothing better. Put on some good tunes. So
yeah,
that's definitely where home's at. Yeah.
Get into deep work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So one more question about what you're doing now is there anything in particular that excites you a lot about what you're working on right now?
It's a problem that we had at the startup I was at for forever. And it's just been, I don't know. I'm a little bit like OCD in some respects where it's I've got to fix this. This is such a pain. I have to fix it. But it's, I'm trying to think where else to go with that. It's just been something I've just really, really wanted to work on for a long time. And I think just kind of having the ability to take a problem, and with software, the sky's really the limit. You can do pretty much anything you want, right? So I think being able to just take a problem and then get creative with it, the creativity piece of it for me is really exciting and fun. That's pretty great. So,
well, thank you for sharing that. Have you are you able to tell us more specifically about the product, or is it kind of in hush hush right now?
No, I'll talk about it. So it's kind of in two pieces, but it's a DevOps platform. So it's other DevOps platforms that would be potential competitors, or places like Vercel, Railway. But it comes in two pieces. Cool. There's an open source project, which simplifies a lot of AWS constructs. So if you want to make a deployment using this open source project, it'd be a couple of lines of code versus if you've heard of Terraform is maybe 40 plus lines of code, even for just something really basic. So there's a piece that simplifies it. And then on top of that is some agentic software that allows you to, using prompts, just ask your system questions. So you could ask your database how many users you have. You could ask, your monitoring system, what the last error is, things like that.
That's very cool.
So And the problem with that, like that we had at the startup, is most startups show up, they get AWS credits, which is so great. It's like free money, but you have to then go learn AWS, which is like, like really hairy. And most startups don't have like a DevOps engineer. They have like a software engineer who doesn't, like, they know the basics of it. And when I went through Flatiron, that was one thing that didn't get touched on much. It was like, here's your project. Okay, go deploy it. And I figured it out. I used Heroku. I used some other tools, but it's AWS, going from like nothing to AWS is hard. So
yeah. Well, cool. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah. I like to think so. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear more about your career journey and just where you started. How did you end up in software engineering? And then maybe how did you end up at Flatiron School as well?
Yeah. I don't know. It was pretty weird trajectory for myself. I think the story starts with me being a musician since like very early. I think maybe 4 or 5 is when my parents got me started with music, and they were musicians, so they're like, "You're doing this," and that led me to. I kind of always had an interest in science too, growing up. So kind of between music and science, those were the two things I gravitated towards. And in college, my first semester in college, I was like a good student in high school. I like got good grades and stuff. I show up to college. My first semester, I had 2 music classes. I had a programming class and a math class. And throughout high school, I was good at math. I show up to this math class and I get an F. So I was like,
oh no.
Why? And then I got a D in the programming course, and the programming course, I have excuses for that, but like that was something I felt like I had a handle on, and it just didn't go well. The 2 music classes, like A's, just like I was killing it. So at that point, I was like, I'm gonna just be a musician. It's just like I don't want to get any more F's. That was not fun. And programming was like, it was super intense. It was in Java, which it was so focused on like object-oriented programming and just kind of like the concepts of it more so than like actually writing anything. So it was very abstract. But at the time it was like, I'll just do music. So I went down that path. And throughout that, I mean, I had friends who were, they were getting, like, one of my friends was a PhD in math. I had other friends who were just very focused on that. And it was something I was always, I was always kind of just looking over at it. It's like, I think I could do that. Like, I really want to be a programmer. Like, that just seems fun. Like, you get to hang out, you get to work wherever you want. Like, I don't know. I think I could go do that. And so as my career progressed, I toured for a long time. I left that and did some other jobs. And all the while I was kind of like, I think I could be a programmer. And things just kind of fell into place. I ended up with a job where I was making enough money. I was able to save some and then go do Flatiron. And at the time I had met my wife as well. And so the stars just kind of aligned, and married my wife, started Flatiron. So like a lot of changes that were happening, but that's kind of
life accelerators.
Yeah, very much. So that's how I ended up in software engineering. That's the very long story. What was the I think you had a second part.
No, that was great. I was wondering, so did you go to Best Buy right after Flatiron School?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And what was your role at Best Buy?
I was on 2 different teams there. That's a huge organization. The first team I was on was the A/B testing team. So they had like a bespoke team, and I think it ended up being 5 people. So there's like 3 business people that were stakeholders, and they were talking to a bunch of different groups to bring in the A/B tests and build those and manage it. And then it was me and one other developer, and we were developing those tests. That was fun just because we got to touch like a bunch. It was on bestbuy.com. We got to touch a bunch of different parts of that website, and it was always features. So they would come to us and say, okay, this part of the business wants to test this is a silly example, but like change the color of this button. It was more often like, we want to add this button, or we want to do this to the homepage. We're going to test it for a bit. And are you familiar with A/B testing at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like 50% of the people who show up to the site get whatever the heck we did. The other 50 don't. And then they measure. So that was the first team I was on. And then there was a reorg, as there tends to be at big corporations. And I got put on the .com team, as they called it. And then I was just straight up on like bestbuy.com. And I got to write a couple features for the homepage. Like they had a carousel that was just showing ads basically. So I got to write that. I wrote, what was it? I think it's called Store Locator, but it's part of your profile, and it basically says you're in wherever you're in New York City. Here's the closest Best Buy to you. Here's the hours. So those were probably the two most visible features I wrote, among other things.
Yeah, that's cool. That's one of those kinds of features that is so convenient, and you just get used to it being there. But before that was there, it was tedious to find what you needed.
Well, and so many places don't have that still, right? It's like, it's kind of like an obvious thing. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed writing that feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from Best Buy, did you go straight from Best Buy to Bold Metrics next?
I did. Yeah. I had a connection there. So the founders of that company were my roommates in college. And they had started that company before I even started Flatiron. And I kind of I'd kept in touch with them, and was always like, that'd be cool. It'd be cool to work with those guys. Like I should like become a developer to go do that. So I kept talking to them. They were fairly like pretty early still. Like growth was like, it was like slow but gradual. And I think they had teams before I joined, but when I joined, there was 4 people there. And so it was me and another developer who ended up being my mentor. He had previously worked at like Amazon and NASA, and had been writing Python since like the 90s.
Wow.
So like very long time. And then the 2 founders that were roommates in high school. So just decided to, I think another reorg was coming at Best Buy, maybe, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time, but it was kind of like, I don't want to switch teams again. I want to try something else. And I had worked in corporations before, so it was like, it felt like the right time to make that jump.
Okay, cool. Well, so one question that might be a little bit harder to ask, you have to dig deep, is what is one lesson or insight from your career that has stuck with you and continues to guide you?
That's a tough question. I think the biggest piece, I wasn't very good at this at the beginning because I'm an introvert, which is part of the reason I like programming. I get to just like turn everything off, right? And just go write code. Building my network, I think, was invaluable and continues to be invaluable, because even people I didn't think I would be, contacting or have kept in touch with over the years, I find myself reaching out to those people to ask them questions that either in an area I don't know much about, or just to get their opinion because they work at places that I've never worked. And so maybe they've seen this problem differently than I have. So I think just having a network, a really strong network, is something that I learned the hard way and continue to build to this day. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, you never know who you're going to cross paths with again.
No, you don't. It's been interesting because I've like crossed paths with people from Best Buy randomly. I've kept in touch with people that I didn't think I was going to keep in touch with originally. And I mean, like there was a lot, like even at Best Buy, this is gonna, I don't know, this is maybe a little personal or whatever, but like one of the teammates there passed away when I was at Best Buy. So it was like that, some of those people ended up kind of bonding in a way that I don't think would have probably happened otherwise.
Yeah.
And that was hard to go through, but it ended up being there's some positive that came out of it. Like I was able to make good friends from it. So
Yeah. Well, this may be tied to that. I'm not sure. This next question is, was there a moment when you faced a major challenge or failure, and how did you grow from it?
I mean, I've suffered from burnout several times. I'd say that's probably the biggest one. It is so easy. Yeah, I'm like such a sucker for just being like, yeah, I got it. I can do that. And then it's like too much stuff, right?
Mhm.
So that was another lesson I learned. I'm continuing to learn the hard way because I'm very good at like once I know what to do, I'm really good at like executing, but at the detriment to like my mental health sometimes. So like if you're able to like right, I don't know, you said you experienced it. If you're able to like step back from that, just kind of check in, make sure you're still okay. You know, you're talking to your family, you can kind of take care of yourself. I think that's a big
Yeah.
piece.
I can't remember who the author is. There's a book coming out soon that's supposed to be all about saying no. I'm like, I need to get that book. Need to learn how to say no to things.
Well, and I was reading an article today. It's like no one ever like is on their deathbed and they're like, man, I wish I could work more hours for that company. Like zero people are going to say that, right? It's going to be like,
Yeah.
I wish I'd spent more time with my kids or my family. So
Yeah. I wish I'd gone on more hikes or something.
yeah, right. Yeah. Not like I wish I wrote 10 more features, but it's okay.
Yeah. Or leading into the next question, I wish I had tried to mentor people.
Yeah.
So my next questions are all about mentorship, and so I was wondering why you decided to become a mentor, and what connected you with this at Flatiron School.
Um, it just gets me excited. I I feel like I'm somebody who um I'm not like I'm not some kind of genius where like I can like see a concept and be like, I got it. Sometimes that happens, but not usually. Like I usually have to go work for it. Like data structures are hard. That's hard stuff. And that was definitely hard for me to learn. So I think just if I can help somebody else kind of like work through that, because nobody was born with these skills. You have to like, you have to go think, and the thinking part is hard. So like,
It is hard.
yeah. So if you can like get help from somebody who has been there, I think that's invaluable. I've just really enjoyed helping people kind of come up through Flatiron and just get on their feet and find their first job. Because there's like this, you kind of like accelerate through Flatiron and you get to this point where you graduate and you're like, okay, I can build an app. But then there's still like a little gap between that and your first job. It doesn't matter what your job is. Like there's it's just at a different speed. And so then you kind of like make that leap, and then like the acceleration keeps going up. And so it's more intense than I think people realize. So I think, yeah, if I can like help people at all get through that, then that's good. Cause I don't know. I think this is a great career. And if I can help people get there, then all the better.
Well, on that same note, is there anyone that you feel like has helped you throughout your career, or is there someone who kind of inspired you to get into software engineering in the first place?
Yeah, I think my friends were really encouraging at first. They were like, yeah, just go do it. Just go do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? I think the other person that had a big effect was John, my mentor. He was just very, that was the guy that worked at like NASA and Amazon. And he had a PhD in computer science, but he was just so patient with me. Just being able to sit and work through problems and be like, I do it this way, here's why, and things like that. Cause there's like patterns and just things that you can grok from people who've been around for a long time that you're not going to ever like invent on your own. So that's really, that was a game changer for me, for sure, getting to work with him.
That's awesome. If you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting out in tech, what would it be?
Only one, huh?
Yep. You can give two if you'd like.
um, I think I think there's kind of two, and they kind of go together. But like, it's uh, if you love this, first off, like you should love this. If you don't love this, this is going to be harder. This is going to be harder than if you love it. But don't give up, because I think I see people graduate Flatiron and they're kind of like, the job hunt is hard. And it's hard, but it's literally a matter of time before you get a job. It's not if you'll get a job. It's like, you just like have to like weather that storm. It takes a minute, but like once you get through it, like you're in.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. I think that's the one piece of advice, is as generic as it sounds, is don't give up. Just keep going. And if you love it, like people are going to see that. People are going to want you to work for them, because that's your outlook.
That's good. Well, I'm moving into my latter questions. So this is all focused on kind of where you want to go next, what do you want to do next? What's something new you're learning or exploring right now, and why does it excite you?
I think I've spent a lot of time looking into AI. It's interesting. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it out there right now. And in context of software engineering, I think a lot of people are scared that it's going to start taking your job. I do not believe that that's the case at all. It's like another tool. It's like having like a really good editor. If you have like this like really good, strong like code editor that can help you, then you're going to be better at your job. You still need to know the concepts, because like AI can't replace that. But it is pretty incredible, like what you're able to do with like model context protocol and like RAG models, things like that. Basically feeding additional context to an LLM is interesting. And then the other piece of it too, I guess this is two things, but the second piece is I'm starting to work on some talks that I'm planning on giving this summer at conferences. So I think that's the other piece that's exciting to me, is just being able to talk and be in the community and share findings and different things.
Now, I should have asked this earlier. Where are you located?
I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So is there a tech community that's growing in that area?
Yeah, there's a very strong tech community here. There are a lot of corporations here. So a lot of people work at corporations here, but there's also a really good startup scene. There's an accelerator here. There's a nonprofit that supports a conference. I think twice a year they do demos, which are fun. It's a free ticket. Yeah. You get a free ticket. There's food and drinks there. You show up to a theater, and then whoever signed up for this thing goes and pitches a live demo of their startup. And I think there's 12 of them for each. So like no PowerPoints, that's a rule. So you show up to this theater and it's everything. I've seen ideas that are weird and bad. I've seen ideas that are really good. I've seen like everything in between. So if nothing else, it's entertaining. And then they host happy hours and some other things. But yeah, they actually have a really strong community. It's obviously not as big as San Francisco or some other metropolitan areas, but it's pretty strong, and there's a lot of people who are really passionate about it here.
That's awesome. I'm always encouraged to hear that there are strong tech communities in places that you just are unexpected. I live in Greenville, South Carolina, and we have a pretty strong community here too. And people don't think about the small towns, but small towns have the tech.
Yeah, well, and you guys probably have meetups there, if I had to guess. That's another piece of it here, is there's a bunch of meetups, and some of them are smaller, but some of them are really good. And I was able to find the Best Buy job through a meetup. I've met some great people just at kind of random meetups, and have heard talks that I for things I just wouldn't have otherwise been interested in. It's anyway, another piece of it. It's been great though.
Cool. So I feel like you've already touched on this, but I'll go ahead and ask in case anything else comes up.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, what's a big dream or ambition you're looking toward in your career?
I think the company, if I can successfully like start a company and turn a profit, then that will have been a big win.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. I have a couple more questions. One, who should we interview next? Is there someone who's been a mentor or to you, or a coworker, or another person you've learned from a book or newsletter blog that we should consider interviewing?
That's such a good question. My mentor also passed away. I've had like two people who have passed away in my career, which has been hard. But that's a good question. I've started to get to know some people through Front End Masters, which is a really good resource after you get out of Flatiron. They post a lot of videos about like very specific topics, and they've had good people go through there. I don't know if I have a good answer to that question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you can always send us some ideas if you think of them later.
Of course.
All right, we've reached the lightning round questions, which means I'm going to attempt to be faster, but I don't know if I will be. So the first question is, what's something you're listening to or reading right now?
Okay, like programming music, Taiko is at the top of the list. Like I love Taiko. There's actually, hold on. This is going to be you're not going to be able to do lightning round because that is going to take forever. My answer is going to be so long. Yumi Zuma in Camera, great song. And then I always go back to Oasis for whatever reason, but usually like non-lyric type music. Books, I'm reading Secrets of Sand Hill Road, which is like a really good primer for what a VC is, what VCs do, things like. So if anyone's interested in that, that's a great book that's written by a partner at Andreessen Horowitz. And so I'm about halfway through that, but it's really an excellent book. I'm also reading, why am I going to forget the title? One moment. This is like, for software engineering is inherently creative, right? The book, like in my opinion, the book on creativity is by Rick Rubin. It's called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. But that is absolutely a book I think everyone needs to pick up. The chapters are super short. You can read them in like 2 minutes. There's probably like, I don't know, 150 chapters in this thing, but it's just like snippets on creativity, and they're so good. So good.
Okay. What's one product or tool you're into right now?
Oh, that's a great question. Tool I've really liked Ghosty, which is a terminal emulator that's relatively new, and I've been looking at NeoVim. There's been a lot of noise about NeoVim, and I've just started to kind of dig into that, so I'll give those as my answer.
Okay. I'm going to skip one of them. I'll go, what date does your next cohort start?
I believe it's June 2nd. I'm not sure the specific date, but it is beginning of June. Yeah.
June. Okay. Where can listeners find you?
Let's see, my website is typeerror.dev with one E. On Twitter, I'm JLCHNC. So my name without any vowels. I think those are probably the two best places. Yeah.
Okay. And then I skipped this question, but I'm going to come back to it because it might be fun. What made you smile this week?
We are fostering a dog, and she is a 10-pound dog. She is a mini Aussie, but she's 10 pounds, which is like, there's something else in there. She can jump on our island in our kitchen. Like and she eats the cat food. Anyway, so Yeah, I've been having to smile about that a lot because it's like, get off the counter. But she's like a really sweet dog, and yeah, I think she'll probably get adopted soon. But she's a firecracker. She's wild. I've
That's
never
awesome.
seen a dog that small that can jump that high. So
That's awesome.
she can clear the back of our couch.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's like, thank you for the obstacle course.
Yeah, this was fun. Make sure you put all your food away too. Oh, she ate a crushed red pepper packet yesterday too. Like she's a little crazy, I think. But anyway, she's okay.
That can't feel good on her stomach.
No.
Well, that was all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining and for sharing. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun.
And I will see you around. And everybody can join your cohort in June.
Yeah, sounds great. Looking forward to it.